talk about how as MGTOW has been growing, it's been attracting more and more negative attention, and this should be expected. We have controversial viewpoints and they're going to be challenged. One of the more common criticisms is that MGTOW is just like feminism. It's essentially the male version of feminism. Not exactly male feminism, those are just a bunch of cucks and manginas, but the equivalent of feminism. Basically how feminism is about female supremacy, MGTOW is about male supremacy. Now that's not true, but in a way, just as Obi-Wan Kenobi might say, it depends on your point of view. So feminism is this ideology more or less built on equality of outcomes. I know there's a lot of dispute about how feminism doesn't really believe in equality, but they do believe in equality, just equality of outcomes, not equality before the law and equality of opportunity. Now, I've explained this in several other videos, but the quick recap is equality of opportunity and equality of outcomes are mutually exclusive. Think about a race. If you want two racers to start at the beginning and see who's the better racer, you would give them the same starting line, no handicaps, and you let them run and see who was faster. If you wanted them to have equality of outcomes, you'd have to determine who the faster runner is and handicap them so they would both finish the race at the same time. So you can't have equality of opportunity, treating everybody fairly and letting things work out, and equality of outcomes. You have to pick one. And in order to have equality of outcomes, you must handicap the superior party to bring them down to the inferior party while elevating the inferior party so that they meet somewhere in the middle. That's essentially what feminism does. In its quest to achieve gender equality, it handicaps and discriminates against men and elevates women. This is where you get the gender quotas, all this bullshit that attacks men. Now that's feminism, and that is the complete opposite of MGTOW, which is all about self-ownership, self-actualization. All this other bullshit doesn't even matter. Another aspect of feminism is that it relies on government enforcement. Because women are biologically inferior to men, they need the government to enforce their power. Women don't have the power to enforce their will on men. If all the women got together and were like, we're gonna make the men do X, Y, or Z, there's no way they could do that without men. Feminism requires men to enforce feminism against other men. Now, MGTOW doesn't require any enforcement. It's simply men walking away, making the cost-benefit analysis in their heads, realizing what a shitty deal most relationships are, and taking their balls and going home. And that's really all there is to it. There's no government enforcement, there's no attempt to change the laws or bring women to heel or anything like that. It's just men looking out for themselves, looking out for number one, and doing what's in their best interest and not what's in society or women's best interest. Which brings me to how feminism and MGTOW are similar. There is one major aspect wherein MGTOW and feminism are similar. And this is where the accusation, I believe, comes from that feminism and MGTOW are basically the same thing, or MGTOW is the male equivalent of feminism. And it comes from the observation that traditionalists make when they observe that both feminism and MGTOW reject traditional gender roles for their respective genders. Now, feminism is about liberating women from the toil and hardship of having to live at home and raise kids and be supported by their husband. Like, it was so terrible. All your needs met by a husband and you just had to suck his dick and clean his house. Oh, God. So feminism is all about empowering women to make them just as good as men. And failing that, handicap men through government fiat until women or men are more or less equal through equality of outcomes. Meanwhile, MGTOW is about rejecting the male role of a disposable utility, of a protector and a provider for a woman, getting little to nothing in return. So because men reject the traditional gender role for men, and feminism rejects the traditional gender role for women, MGTOW and feminism are similar in that regard. And when somebody compares feminism and MGTOW and says, oh, MGTOW is just as bad as feminist, they're basically outing themselves as traditionalists. They're viewing both feminism and MGTOW through the lens of a traditionalist. Now, traditionalists are gynocentric. They believe that women should be protected and provided for by men. Men should sacrifice themselves for women, for their families, and for society. The man is completely disposable. Traditionalists and feminists agree on male disposability and gynocentrism. This makes them not friends of MGTOW, but adversaries. However, they're also anti-feminist because, especially third-wave feminism and beyond, they're attacking the family itself. So at the end of the day, you have these two groups, MGTOW and feminism. And aside from rejecting traditional gender roles, they share almost nothing in common. The reason why is feminism runs contrary to nature. Females trying to be men, trying to do men's jobs, without the physical or mental capacity of doing what men do is a joke. And you can see all the money and decades we've spent trying to elevate women, and it hasn't worked. I mean, people talk about the wage gap, and I haven't done a video about the wage gap because it's been done to death. But I just want to make a quick point. Laws were passed decades ago, making it against the law to pay women less for the same work, and yet the wage gap has persisted. Because women don't do the same work. They do inferior work. They do less work. They leave the workforce to have babies, which makes them less experienced. This is well known. So when feminism tried to create a level playing field under the misguided belief that men and women could be equal if given the chance, that has failed. And because that has been proven to fail, now they are just seeking to pull men down to women's level in order to achieve equality that way. MGTOW has no such agenda for women. MGTOW are not interested in pulling women down to anyone's level. Men are already naturally superior to women. There's no reason to have some sort of supremacist agenda. We just need to get the government out of the way. If the government isn't enforcing feminism, feminism disappears. You don't need government enforcement. You just need to have an absence of gynocentrism to have patriarchy. That's what fills the vacuum naturally. I've talked about this in several of my videos about the traditionalism/egalitarianism cycle. But when you're watching a video on YouTube making fun of MGTOW or being critical of MGTOW, listen for them talking about how MGTOW is just as bad as feminism. And you will find that these people are almost always traditionalists or egalitarians, or both. This is how they out themselves. This is their beef with MGTOW. Because, when it comes to making fun of feminists and calling them retards, we're all there together. We're all laughing and pointing at them and calling them retards together. But once men walk away and realize they don't want to do the traditional gender thing either, then they're like, oh, wait a minute, guys, you have to come back and you have to support and protect all these women. You have to sacrifice your life for women in society. And we're like, no, fuck that. Why should I care about a society that doesn't care about me? Why should I protect and provide for people who don't give a shit about me, who just see me as a disposable utility? I mean, I don't understand why mutual benefit is this impossible standard. Why can't we have relationships, society, family, whatever, based on mutual benefit? When animals form families, they don't have marriage or government to enforce it. The family stays together as long as there's mutual benefit. Everyone can leave anytime they want. And yet, animal families exist. They stay together because everyone pulls their weight and there's mutual benefit between them. Why is this such an impossible standard for humans? Why can't we have relationships based on mutual benefit, where the man benefits as much as the woman, where you get as much as you give? Now, the reason why I believe this is currently impossible is because of gynocentrism. Because everyone wants to worship the golden vagina. But if we just pull our collective heads out of our ass and evaluate the situation, we'll see how dysfunctional it is, and maybe we'll ask some questions and come up with a better solution. Then again, we're just as bad as feminism, right? So that's all I have to say, just a little thought I had. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.